Okay, so let me get this straight about Moro. He had to absorb the life force of living beings to grow his power, like Cell. He also consumed an android to reach an even more powerful form, like Cell. He also boasted about having the abilities of the Z Fighters, like Cell. He also got beaten up so badly that he threw up his absorption, thus reverting him to a previous form, like Cell. He also became a bloated fat sack of shit and made himself into a living bomb, thereby taking the Earth itself hostage, like Cell. Okay, now you may be thinking, but Cage, you skipped over parts of Moro's story. And yeah, I did, but those were parts that were copied from other Dragon Ball villains and pasted onto Moro, who was less a consumer of worlds and more of a regurgitator of works. Yeah, I forced that wordplay kind of, but it is what it is, alright? Now before I continue, let me make it clear that this video is going to be more of a critique of Moro as a character rather than a critique of the Galactic Prisoner arc as a whole, as it's widely agreed to be the best arc that Dragon Ball Super has to offer. And as far as the Dragon Ball Super manga goes, yeah, I agree. Rereading it all at once and in color for this video, there were many aspects that I enjoyed quite a lot. Like anytime Jacko was on screen, like he's just hilarious. His dynamic with Goku, where Goku actually gets to play the straight man to someone goofier than he is a whole lot of fun. And if you haven't read his manga, actually drawn by Toriyama as a Dragon Ball prequel, what are you waiting for? Finish this video and then read it. Other highlights include everything about Maris. He's such a well-written character that he's going to be getting his own video in future. And after multiple arcs of fans getting Majin Blue balled, Fat Boo didn't just play a role in this arc, but was an integral part of it. Vegeta training on Yardrat was cool to see, especially since in the original manga, we didn't really get to see much of Vegeta's solo training. Anytime Gohan and Piccolo did any kind of tag team attacks from defending the Earth was peak and was much more enjoyable than their dynamic in Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Androids 17 and 18 being used as a way to circumvent Moro's energy absorption technique felt very organic and very smart. And Ultra Instinct Goku actually looked powerful, like how he did in the anime's version of the Tournament of Power. Now don't get me wrong, he was cool in the manga version of the Tournament of Power, but let's admit it, in the anime version, that was the literal definition of aura. But here's where I started noticing a pattern. A lot of what the Moro arc does is fixing or correcting shortcomings that happened in Dragon Ball Super's past or even the original manga. Now don't get me wrong, this is a good thing, but it seems to have come at the cost of developing Moro more as his own unique antagonist, as Moro is more used as a reason, a platform for all of these satisfying moments to happen. Meanwhile, Toyotaro fell back on decades-old Dragon Ball Z villain tropes in order to make up for its lack of a unique character. As there's another common sentiment regarding Moro that I do agree with, albeit in a more cynical way. That being, Moro reminds me of a Dragon Ball Z villain. But when comparing Moro to the pantheon of antagonists from the latter half of Dragon Ball, let's just say he's less Frieza and more cooler. Less Boo and more Janemba, less Cell and more Bojack. Wait, no, actually he's quite like Cell, but you get what I'm driving at here. See, Moro reminds me of a villain from the original 13 Dragon Ball Z Toei movies. As sure, those films are a spectacle, but most of the villains are extremely derivative from the antagonists of the original manga. But here's the thing, they had the excuse of runtime, as those films were only 50 minutes long. Meanwhile, the Moro Arc ran for 2 years. That's 27 monthly chapters, 6 volumes, totaling over 1,200 pages of manga. And even then, if you've watched my video on both Z Broly and Goku being based on Son Wukong, you can even see that an argument can be made that Z Broly has more going on character-wise than Moro. Hell, even the whole eating the life force of a planet thing comes straight from Turles and the Tree of Might. And oh, come on man, not ripping off Lord Slug too. See, this is also frustrating because it didn't have to be this way. With a few changes to his character and backstory, Moro could have really stood out as his own unique antagonist. In future, I'm gonna make a whole video about how I change up Moro, but for now, let's do a brief overview of the Galactic Prisoner arc and pinpoint where Moro began to go wrong as a character. As initially, he looked very promising. As we're first introduced to Moro while he's engaged in a life or death battle with the Kais of Universe 7, meaning Beerus is being terrible at his job again. Here we see his magic of life force consumption, which resembles a malevolent version of Goku's Spirit Bomb, but then his magic is sealed by the Grand Supreme Kai before being kept prisoner by the Galactic Patrol for 10 million years. In the present day, when Goku manages to sense his energy, we're introduced to one of the best pages in all the Dragon Ball Super manga, wherein Moro knows that Goku is sensing him and smiles back in response. I like how here, Goku acknowledges that Moro's ki isn't particularly strong, but that it just feels so evil that it feels like the screams of innocent people. Kinda like Imperfect Cell, but that doesn't really matter right now, as we're introduced to Moro's design, and it's one of the most unique and distinct designs we've gotten for a Dragon Ball antagonist ever. He's this giant, disheveled, warlock, anthropomorphic goatman creature. It's just so striking, and in the exact same way you want a villain's design to be memorable. Then we find out his plan is to go to New Namek and use their Dragon Balls in order to restore his lost power, which is giving Frieza and King Piccolo vibes, but it's still an understandable motivation. Afterwards, the Saiyan duo have their initial confrontation with Moro, where Vegeta engages with him in his Super Saiyan form. And I love how Moro fights like an elusive creep, jumping around on all fours, breaking the conventions of a traditional martial arts battle. Then Moro gets even freakier. Moro gets even creepier as he disrobes, revealing this decrepit, hunchbacked husk of a mage who's lived for eons. And here's where we see more of his magic in action, as he fights with the life force of the planet itself, which is unique, but raises questions like, why is the power of a single planet in the form of lava splashes even hurting Super Saiyan God Vegeta? Didn't he take a spirit bomb to the face which included the sun's energy and get back up? Then we see more of Moro's absorption powers, which isn't limited to eating evil spirit bombs, but he can also absorb energy from ki blasts and living beings directly, just like androids 19 and 20. Oh yeah, and just for good measure, Moro also does a Frieza by easily dispatching the most powerful Namekian warrior. You know, some people ask me, Cage, how do you know so much about Dragon Ball? Well, that's because, dear viewer, sometimes I talk to Goku directly, and he talks back to me. Not in a way that would get me put into a mental asylum, but through this video sponsor, Talkie. Talkie is a free AI-powered app available on iOS, Android and PC, wherein you can talk to your favorite fictional characters, and the results are genuinely as impressive as they are hilarious. I mean, just look at the app's description for Goku. I don't fight for good, I don't fight for evil, I just fight. Already more accurate than the original Z-Dub's I lied to good, nightmare to you nonsense. But unfortunately, not even AI Goku knows when Dragon Ball Super Season 2 is dropping. I asked Zoro what a hypothetical full sword style would be, hoping to get confirmation on the rumored butt cheek grip style, but then instead he said this. Now, chat, what did he mean by this? I also tried to help Denji so he could stop being such a simp, but guys, I think he's just a lost cause, man. I then asked Mikasa to step on me. And guys, you can do these scenario plays where you control a specific character from an important moment from their series. For example, I played Itachi trying to get through to Sasuke. Now please read the chat log, because I was getting cooked by Sasuke trying to stop him from being such an edgelord. But eventually I just about managed to get through to him and got this cool picture as a reward. Honestly guys, I had a whole bunch of fun with this app for free. Download it for some fun entertainment, you won't regret it. The link is in the pinned comment. Thank you Talkie for sponsoring this video. But then a glimmer of hope arrives for Moro, as a unique asset of his character is revealed, his vendetta against the Grand Supreme Kai, currently in the visage of Fat Buu. This is just a good old-fashioned grudge match, a lust for revenge. Sure, it's a bit like Barbady's hatred of the Supreme Kai during the Buu saga, but it feels much more personal of Moro, as he was the one who was imprisoned, unlike Barbady wanting revenge for his father's death, and Moro's the one doing the fighting, unlike Barbady, who got Buu to fight for him like a fucking Pokemon trainer. And on that note, it's also a role reversal of sorts. Now we have Buu fighting for a Kai against an evil mage, as opposed to Buu fighting a Kai under the orders of an evil mage. And the entire angle of the Grand Supreme Kai's essence lurking within Buu is a great way of expanding on what was just a single panel and a line of text from Toriyama's original manga in order to justify Majin Buu's pure form through what I can only describe as a hasty retcon. Then unfortunately, when the battle looks like it'll reach its conclusion, I get King Piccolo vibes again, with Moro shitting himself over the threat of being subject to a sealing technique once again. And the King Piccolo vibes continue as the sky grows dark, an eternal dragon is summoned, and the antagonist gets his former power restored to him by a wish. So with Cranberry healed and Moro's power restored, there's only one wish left. Oh yeah, all this time Moro has had an old Frieza Force lackey who was resurrected by the Namekian Dragon Balls on a technicality, helping him out. And honestly, his backstory and goals may be more interesting than Moro's. Anyway, with this final wish of Moro's, Toyotaro really teases what this wish could possibly be. He really wants the audience to think about what such a mysterious ancient being would wish for, a wish Moro had some doubt as to whether or not it could even be granted. But before we find out what Moro's third wish was, we get the Grand Supreme Kai vs Moro round 2. And you know what, I'm just gonna say it. This is where the arc peaks for me really, as this is my favorite fight in the entire arc. As yeah, I'll admit, in terms of visual spectacle, it may not reach the heights of Ultra Instinct Goku vs Moro, but the narrative substance between the two combatants is much more compelling. While Goku and Vegeta are written out of the fight because they can't breathe in space, like what does God Ki even do? The two ancient rivals are left to duke it out in space, and this is really Moro's only fight as a somewhat unique antagonist. I love how after he's gotten his power back, he's so much more confident. I love the build up to the reveal that the Supreme Kai has lost his god powers and so can't even seal Moro. And I mean, come on, that visual of Moro kicking the Kai into his own memories. Now Toyotaro cooked it. He cooked it, I can't even lie. Like, you can't find a visual like that in the original Dragon Ball manga. And it's not just style without substance, as by doing that, Moro found out that there's no one in the universe that could seal him once again. Unfortunately, the cooking was brought to an abrupt halt when Toyotaro decided to bring up this mysterious, esoteric third wish again and end the chapter on a cliffhanger. Need I remind you that these chapters came out monthly, so fan speculation was able to run wild between chapters. Maybe he got lost in the source a bit because it's revealed that Moro's third wish was to release the other prisoners. That's just not nearly interesting enough to have been hyped up and teased like that for chapters left on a cliffhanger by Toyotaro. What I thought would reveal some more depth to Moro's character, reveal some more of the inner workings of his mind, a new dimension to him, was just a way for Moro to get his own bootleg Frieza force to invade Namek, you know, just like how Frieza did. Then just to solidify just how much of a boring, nothing antagonist Moro is, we get his motivations for being so evil. And yeah, it turns out that he's just a hungry goat wizard man who wants a galaxy-sized farm. Now this in of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It could even be somewhat thought-provoking, like our farms on Earth where we raise livestock just to slaughter them and eat them is what we do morally just. But in the very next page, Moro goes on to ruin that potential angle by adding, yeah, I also hate people who like peace and want to kill them. So yeah, just boring and evil, the least interesting motivation of all the antagonists in the Dragon Ball Super manga. Even Jiren the caked, Jiren the Grey, named after the most boring color there is, had a somewhat compelling internal conflict that added some depth to his character. He didn't want to play a part in the eradication of other universes due to his values as a superhero. Meanwhile, Moro is evil just because. Once again, all the depth of a Toei villain. And this is Dragon Ball, so I'm not asking for fucking Griffith here. Although, if you know Berserk and you know this balcony, you'll know it was Griffith who was actually getting fucked. Though with that being said, when Moro and his goons leave Namek and go on a feasting spree resulting in Moro looking even younger, I kinda preferred his kinda still bearded look, to be honest. I do like his mindset for letting Goku and Vegeta roam free so he can have some good eating later on. And you know what, since a whole wish was spent on it, let's talk about Moro's Moro Force. Yeah, I'm sorry, but these have to be some of the least memorable Dragon Ball characters ever put to page, I'm sorry. The Ginyu Force continues to be the gold standard in regard to Dragon Ball underlings. But hey, at least the Moro Force has the Frieza Force be in gender diversity with these ego Twitch streamer looking female characters. And wait, what the fuck is that? Nah, I swear to God, Roshi man, you have to join them in that galactic prison. You need to be locked up, bro. Okay, but being genuine, upon rereading this arc, Saganbo actually did grow on me. He just loves to goon for Moro. He's a loyal, dedicated, 24/7 goon. Then we have OG73, who looks a bit too much like Hit for my liking, but his copy ability is cool, but will lead to the ultimate downfall of Moro as a character. But more on that later, because after a series of events, Moro ends up invading Earth, and we basically kinda get a rehash of Frieza's invasion of Earth in Resurrection F. In some ways better, and in others just as worse. And so, the final confrontation between the Goat Warlock and the Saiyan duo draws near. Random tangent, but why does Toyotaro draw antagonists with auras that make them look like they stink? Like first Jiren and now this? Like it's just not a good look, it's the opposite of aura. Okay, so Goku finally confronts Moro for their rematch, and it feels hollow. The extremely awkward and boring paneling of this page doesn't help, but by God, the dialogue between Goku and Moro is just so bland. It's like they're just going through the motions. Alright, but first Goku defeats Moro's #1 Guna, who gets pumped with too much energy and dies. Rest in peace, Saganbo. Your legacy will be carried on by Gas in the very next arc, who will also be a character who is fiercely loyal to his boss before said boss makes him become more and more powerful before he can't handle it anymore and it becomes fatal. Back to Goku vs Moro. Again, say it with me now, it's like Goku is facing up against a Toei villain. Just a guy for him to punch with no deeper theme going on here. Like take Goku vs Vegeta for instance, wherein before they fought, the two Saiyan combatants exchanged philosophies as to what dictates the value of a warrior, and in turn the value of a person. Goku believed that with hard work, one can improve themselves. Meanwhile, Vegeta believed that the circumstances of one's birth was all that mattered. Hell, in the middle of the fight, Vegeta's Uzaru transformation represented Goku coming face to face with the fact that he is indeed a Saiyan, just like Vegeta, and because of his Saiyan origin, he killed the man who raised him. But for Goku vs Moro, there's just none of that here, just more painfully boring dialogue. Like Goku's like, yes Moro, this is Ultra Instinct sign, let's fight now. And then Moro is like, yes, okay Son Goku, we shall fight. But as for the fight itself, I do like that it has a good sense of tension to it. Ultra Instinct Omen Goku holding his own, but clearly being on the back foot the entire fight. I especially like this dual exchange punch where yeah they both took a hit, but Goku is clearly the one who took more damage. There's this overhanging sense of dread as Goku's best here just isn't good enough and he needs to be more to defeat Moro. Although one thing that bothers me a bit is that Moro's magic outside of his planet life manipulation is just kinda boring. Like this bonding technique he does to Goku is just Frieza's telekinetic ki ball that he did to Goku on Namek. Ultimately, Ultra Instinct Omen Goku loses, resulting in Vegeta stepping in by using instant transmission for the only time ever for a really dumb reason, but hey, from Ultra Instinct Omen to a bad omen, Vegeta is so confident that he can defeat Moro that he strikes his signature thumb pose of doom. If you're somehow unaware of this trend in Dragon Ball and how it leads to the downfall of those who dare strike the cursed pose, let me give you a live demonstration. Like this video and subscribe to the K. Nah, I'm just playing. Toei haven't gotten me, at least not yet. But seriously, please like this video and subscribe to the channel because only a fraction of my viewers are actually subscribed, and especially if you're one of my 60,000 returning viewers. Please subscribe, bro, please. Okay, so Vegeta starts putting the beat down on Moro with his forced spirit fishing technique to remove all the life force he had absorbed. As I said in the intro, this causes Moro to literally throw up his absorbed power and revert to his previous form, like Cell. But what I do like about this scene is that thanks to Vegeta, life is being restored throughout the cosmos, the exact opposite of how Vegeta was before he went through his character development in the original series, terrorizing the cosmos as a bloodthirsty Saiyan. In terms of theming for this arc, if Vegeta was allowed to kill Moro, then this would have been a lot more narratively satisfying, as throughout this entire arc, we've seen Vegeta regret and lament the violent man he once was, and how he wants to do better as a person. Moro being such a plain evil bad guy and Goku versus Moro feeling so hollow would have made complete sense if this was Vegeta's fight to win, as it would have symbolized just how far Vegeta has come as a character by having him kill Moro, who was essentially the goddamn space devil who had been terrorizing the cosmos just as Vegeta had done in the past. But no, that doesn't happen. Instead, Vegeta gets the Resurrection F treatment again, wherein he literally has the villain dead to rights on all fours, about to finish them off with a Big Bang attack just for the rug to be pulled out from under him at the very last second. As this time, Moro manages to escape, consume an android in order to power up, and then it happens. The moment Moro lost whatever semblance of what made him a unique antagonist. Now for Moro, as derivative and generic as he was before absorbing OG-73, at least he had a great, distinct, evil-looking, goat-inspired design. I love this page of him looming over all the Z-Fighters. That's a distinct, evil-looking face right there. It also helps that I imagined Moro's voice as that of the late, great Leonard Nimoy, known for voicing Master Xehanort in the Kingdom Hearts series.
But destiny is never left to chance. I merely guided them to their proper places. In ancient times, people believed that light was a gift from an unseen land.
This design alone could have helped Moro have a place in the pantheon of Dragon Ball antagonists without the baggage of being a complete ripoff of all of them at once. But instead, he absorbs an android just like Cell in order to reach a powered up form that looks like perfect Cell, and that shred of hope goes out the window completely, as all I see is Cell. In his speech bubbles, all I hear is perfect Cell, and just like Cell, his first order of business is to turn the tables on a newly powered up Vegeta and beat the shit out of him. He also starts using the attacks of the Z-Fighters like Cell, and even has a line boasting about having Piccolo's regeneration just like Cell. Now I'll admit, the beatdown he goes on to give the Z-Fighters is brutal, but many a generic Toei villain have already done that. Though there is a funny moment wherein if Dragon Ball Super was written consistently or with any forethought at all, Gohan should have gone beast right here and one-shot Moro after Goku got a hole in his chest, but whatever. Oh yeah, during his fight with Meris, Moro even pulls some Kid Buu sneak attack shit, but more on Moro ripping off Buu later. For now, let's move on to the main event here. Ultra Instinct Goku versus Moro. Sure, this fight is a visual spectacle, but the characterization of Goku and Moro just kinda ruins it for me. I'm gonna save my critique of Goku for a different video, but for Moro, there's a moment in this fight that I really don't like because it's just a cheaper version of one of the most iconic scenes from the original manga. This is when Moro gets crushed by a rock and begs Goku for help. Frieza on his deathbed could tank a planetary explosion, but whatever. This is a clear parallel to when Frieza begged Goku for help on Namek, but without any of the gravitas or satisfaction. See, when Frieza did that, it meant so much from an in-universe and out-universe perspective, as throughout the entire arc, throughout Frieza's entire life, he had never been on the back foot like this. He was so used to a life of casual domination over those who deemed inferior to him. To see Frieza pathetically beg for his life was so cathartic. Adding to this moment was that he was begging not just a Saiyan, but a Super Saiyan for help, a being he brought into existence through his own arrogant cruelty, a race he caused the genocide of. Meanwhile for Moro, seeing him in such a pathetic state is nice I guess, but it just doesn't hit the same, especially since Moro has been on the back foot for multiple times during this arc, and if Goku and Vegeta locked in from the very beginning, then he would have died chapters ago. Also, since there's no deeper theme to Goku vs Moro, there's nothing really monumental about this moment at all. Like sure, yeah, Moro's pathetic, but he's pathetic in a sad and boring way, not in a satisfying one like with Frieza. He even goes on to pull a "you must die by my hand" after Goku heals him, not to mention Goku healed him by giving him a Senzu Bean just like he did for Cell. Then just like Super Buu, Moro uses a chopped off limb in order to absorb the power of someone else. There's just nothing unique or interesting about Moro. All of his lines of dialogue you could give to almost any other Dragon Ball Z villain and nothing would change. Ah yes, just like Cell, after getting beaten up, Moro becomes a huge abomination that holds the entire Earth hostage by becoming a living bomb. But I will give Moro this. At least he became a mindless beast years before Cell Max was even a thing, and Moro was a more entertaining Cell clone than Cell Max ever was. But you know what's really funny about the finale of Goku vs Moro is that it's not original at all. For the most part, it's copied straight from Super Dragon Ball Heroes, wherein Goku had to punch a crystal of a giant rampaging villain in order to defeat him, with Ultra Instinct Goku vs Kami Oren, which released a year before the Goku vs Moro finale. Like line for line, bar for bar, it's bizarre even. I have no idea why Toyotaro would make such a blatant copy. Maybe he had to reference it for corporate synergy. I have no idea, but it's just weird. So yeah, except for Goku's Ultra Instinct Susanoo, there is even nothing original about the way Moro gets defeated. But at least Oob helped out with the Spirit Boost? That was given to Goku to help him defeat Moro, so that creates a nice closed loop with Moro's vendetta against the Kai, the most interesting aspect of his character that I personally enjoyed the most. So yeah, that's Moro. Apart from his personal vendetta against the gods and a unique design that was stripped from him, nothing about him is original. He is extremely derivative of a multitude of Dragon Ball antagonists before him. His relationship with the protagonist was rather shallow and not very interesting. He is the titular character of one of the best arcs in the Dragon Ball Super manga, but for me, he is one of Dragon Ball Super's worst antagonists. Look, Moro having some occasional callbacks to previous Dragon Ball villains would have been fine, and we know that Toyotaro really likes his callbacks, but Moro was left looking less like a culmination of Dragon Ball's greatest hits and more like its reheated stale leftovers. As when it comes to leaning on previous source material, Dragon Ball Super is at its best when it reinvents, remixes previous things from Dragon Ball rather than just regurgitate it. That's why Frieza acting as Goku's reluctant ally in the finale of the Tournament of Power to defeat Jiren was so celebrated by fans and is one of the most iconic scenes in modern Dragon Ball. Meanwhile, Resurrection F, when Frieza comes back as a villain again, except he's nowhere near as compelling as he was in the Namek saga, is widely agreed to be one of the worst things to come out of modern Dragon Ball. Now, I'm aware that some Dragon Ball fans like Seth the Programmer would argue that Moro is supposed to represent all of Goku's failures and that it's on purpose that he's a ripoff of every single Dragon Ball villain, but I'm just not buying that at all. Or if that's true, it was just executed extremely poorly, as Moro representing all of Goku's past failures or past villains, it doesn't even make sense when not just 2 minutes after putting all of his friends in mortal danger, almost getting them all killed because he was acting like such an idiot with Moro, straight after that, Goku is celebrated by his friends like he did nothing wrong at all, so I don't get it. For me, Moro may just be the result of Toyotaro facing the same problem Toriyama did when trying to come up with a threatening villain post-Frieza, as he joins Perfect Cell and Butenks in being an everything villain who can absorb others, can regenerate, knows the attacks of the Z Fighters, and won't stop boasting about how powerful they are. All three of them are boring and interchangeable. Well, at least Buhan was a bit fun. I think this is why Toriyama made Beerus as a bit of a reset to this whole escalating villain problem. He doesn't transform, regenerate, or anything like that. He's given one great design and is just strong as all hell. But Toyotaro still hasn't learnt this. Look at how many times Gas transformed in the Granola arc, and just how exhausting it was to be stuck with such a lacking antagonist with an inferiority complex who long overstayed his welcome. But hey, third time's the charm. He may not have the guiding hand of Toriyama with him anymore, but maybe in the next arc, Toyotaro can give us a truly unique antagonist that will stand on their own, because with the Moro arc he clearly shows that he has potential. Oh God, please don't let the Black Frieza arc just be Resurrection F2, please God, no, please. But wait a second. I just noticed something crazy, right? First I said third time's the charm, right? Then I said Resurrection F2. That just leaves us with the number 1. 1. That's because it just costs $1 a month to support me on Patreon and get all of these rewards, like early access to videos, exclusive wallpapers, access to the Cage Discord, and your name on the Patreon thank you wall behind me, and in the end credits. If you enjoy my content and want to support me, then click the link in the description. And if you want to donate more than $1 and flex on the other patrons, then you're more than welcome to do so, because I sure as hell won't stop you from making bad financial decisions. And to those who have already joined, like Birdie Senpai, Duct Tape Ninja, Justin's Den, Dora, Jadu Sable, thank you. I think I love you, or whatever parasocial stuff YouTubers say. So if you want to hear me complain and critique more about the Dragon Ball Super manga, then click this video here to hear my critique of the Granola the Survivor arc and why I called it the worst arc of Dragon Ball that reads like bad fanfiction, and I still stand by that sentiment to this day. Click this video over here. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and stay locked into the cage. Peace out.